So where do you think the fight for Asian American representation has gotten us in 2024?
Well, representation wise, it's like just booming. If representation just means more Asian faces in shitty movies, who cares? Representation isn't enough. It's power. That's what we've always fought for.
It's Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and who better to talk about Asian American heritage than Renee Tajima-Peña, the Academy Award-nominated director of Who Killed Vincent Chin and the Emmy Award-nominated director behind No Mas Bebes. And right now you can binge her amazing, galvanizing five-part series, Asian Americans, on Kanopy, as well as on PBS. Also for the month of May, her irreverent yet deeply personal 1997 film, My America, or Honk If You Love Buddha, serves as a fitting prologue to the five-part Asian American series and can currently be streamed on the Criterion Channel.
Hi, HB.
Hi.
I'm so glad we have our composition
Our
correct
cinematographic
for
symmetry.
now.
Now we're ready to send self tapes for Grand Budapest Hotel 2. So hey, congrats on My America being streamed on the Criterion Channel. What does that mean? What does that mean for you?
It's kind of cool. That's what I was thinking about in the 1990s. I've really moved forward, I hope. So it's interesting to look back on it. People watch my old films. I wish they would just watch my new stuff.
Your newest stuff being the five-part series called Asian Americans. How did you manage to make a five-episode series about the history of Asian Americans and make it so much more entertaining than the prospect of having to pour through tomes of academic literature?
Yeah, that's great because Asian American Studies is really central to my work. Do I read their books? I kind of read the Cliff Notes, and I have like this kind of a disability where if I see like a whole page of dense text, it really doesn't process.
Mhm.
Like I have a face blindness, so I cannot put like a face and a name together. But if I film them and I'm looking at them a lot on the screen, then it kind of ingrains in my mind. That is why I'm a documentary filmmaker.
And it's also the reason why Asian Americans isn't dry, right?
Oh,
Like,
thank you. The one thing I want to do is to do the story differently because I think, when the series was released in 2020, it was at a time when we were really thinking about these things like hate,
uh-huh.
racial hate. It was really fraught time. I'm glad we didn't just do the old kind of, oh, this happened in the past and people were mean to Asians, and then we rose up and end the story. I
Right.
mean, it's just a lot deeper than that.
Yeah, and you get to go that deep. Not everybody's afforded that latitude.
Yeah.
I mean, you're an Oscar nominee. What did it mean for you to be nominated for an Academy Award for Who Killed Vincent Chin?
I was so young at that time. I mean, for an Asian American or any person of color to be not only to be nominated, to be in the room. When I was working on Who Killed Vincent Chin, I was also working on the formation of CAM. And then when I did Asian Americans, we were building ADOC, the Asian American Documentary Network, at the same time. And that's was founded by Leo Chang. We're building the field, we're also making films, and it's just one kind of calling.
Yeah, and that's a calling that benefits. I've benefited from this calling for sure, right? Like my career would be nowhere without Cam. If you were to tell someone who doesn't know anything about what to expect, why should they watch Asian Americans?
Well, it's an American story. I mean, that's kind of stupid. That's kind of what you would say on your promotion.
Sure.
It, some of the stories that I thought everybody knew, our film team, which is mostly Asian American, but the younger people on the team, and they asked them, "Do you know what happened to Vincent Chin?" Or "Do you know what happened to Japanese Americans in World War II?" They had no idea.
Right.
And I was like, "Oh, shit. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe we should do the story."
Yeah, but it's not like you were setting out to tell the most comprehensive story of Asian America.
It's not as comprehensive as it should have been, and we don't have to tell every story.
Right.
For me as a filmmaker, I don't have to tell every story. I'm not the best person to tell every story. If there was like a kernel of a story, because they're all kind of short segments,
Mhm.
because in a sense it's an overview, somebody can take that kernel of a story and make it, a feature documentary. So we hope that'll happen because we were able to build an infrastructure of research and, visual elements and an archive and everything. So it would make it easier for another filmmaker to do that.
Yeah, and that's what I love about the series is each episode is so satisfying and entertaining, and like the whole series acts as like this bedrock from which we can each tell our stories of Asian America.
I'm here today so the rest of this world hears our story. For 4.5 years, my family was incarcerated. The government framed it as an issue of loyalty.
Many people lose everything.
Asian voices were so inspirational.
They had to assert their rights.
The railroad could not have been built without the Chinese.
We fought on the side of the United States.
There was a shift in political power.
Asian Americans were free to do anything they wanted.
All hell broke loose.
The city burned.
They were trying to build a life for themselves.
I grew up with the American dream.
You've got young people fighting to make change happen. If a lot of people put their mind to it, they can win.
It was an incredible time.
And their legacy belongs to all of us.
This is our story.